Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of WEvolve.
And in today's episode, obviously, we are missing Alina, but we are going to be talking about boundaries and the types of boundaries, how to have boundaries, why they're important, and how they affect your mental health.
Yep. So, I can start it off. I think boundaries are limits or rules you can set for yourself in relation to others, which is found by UC Davis Health. And they're defined basically what you're okay with and what's acceptable and basically what you're not okay with, and that's based on yourself.
So let's get through all of the research stuff so that we can kind of use that to understand all the other stuff that we're going to talk about. But in a recent paper on personal boundaries, the definition, role, and impact of mental health, the authors describe boundaries as an internal and external spaces that help separate the individual from the surrounding world and others, and they examine how disruptions to boundaries relate to psychological distress. So, what do you think that means, to you?
Boundaries, internal and external space. I think it's for yourself and for others in a way. It's what you have just by yourself. What are your boundaries? Whereas what are your boundaries for other people as well? I think, yeah.
Do you think you have boundaries?
I would think so.
What kind of boundaries? Give me an example of some boundaries that you have.
I think when it comes to friends and school, I would say if I do have schoolwork, I would prioritize that schoolwork before my friends, and that's an example of a boundary, right? Or is that just prioritizing?
I think that's an example of a personal boundary. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not,
it's I know school has to come first, so I will put that over my friends, any relationships. That's most important to me. I guess that's a personal boundary for me.
I guess that would be an internal boundary because it's only you know that, or you're making that boundary. Do you think that you have boundaries that you have boundaries that you tell to other people to have for you? Does that make sense?
A lot of my boundaries are very I feel they're kind of I guess people know what I guess courtesy in a way, it's simple courtesy. So I might have the impression of that. It's if I don't really know you and then you're over here cracking up jokes where it's straight belittling me as a person, being oh, this is trash, oh, this is awful, and I don't really know you, but that's your way of joking and stuff. I don't like that, and I think that's a personal boundary for me. It's if I don't know you enough, you need to get to know me before we can make jokes like that. I guess.
Okay, so you do have boundaries in social settings.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, it's good. I think I agree. I think that I am someone that does make my boundaries clear to my friends and stuff. Obviously not to random people, because it's how do you
I know you can't tell them, but it's
hi, my name is Deetya and these are my boundaries. You know what I mean? You can't tell them, but to my friends, I do anytime if we obviously I don't say it out these are my boundaries. Maybe that's good to do.
Which I think that's why I think it's simple courtesy. People already do follow majority of boundaries people have, but it's when you overstep that, saying something bad is
But I feel whenever I get into arguments or debates and stuff, I will make it clear to someone hey, these are my boundaries, which they respect, and I feel if they don't respect my boundaries, I'm not friends with them. You know, so.
Which is so bad.
Yeah, but I also think that our understanding of boundaries are very, different than, we don't really know all the types of boundaries out there, so.
There's so many.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to talk about.
It's also important to, understand that boundaries they're on a spectrum. It's not if you do this, you can't be my friend anymore. If you do this, you can't be my friend anymore. Because it depends on, the person, the type of boundary, why you have that boundary. And the point of boundaries are, obviously you have some boundaries that are, rigid. I will not do this. This is something, I guess, an example would be,
I was talking about family. Dissing your family. Dissing your close friends.
I think, I agree with that, but I feel family is such a broad topic that it could be, this boundaries for that could range all the way from.
I'm talking this person is straight making fun of your mom. In the sense
I'm talking boundaries more for this example, I'm talking about a rigid boundary more if you're someone that's like, I'm never in my life gonna smoke a cigarette, and then it's like, that is a hard boundary. Like, there's no way that you're compromising on that boundary. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that to me is an example of like a rigid boundary, because if I like made that boundary and it's like, I never in my life want to do that, then that is rigid. And it's like, so for example, if I was like, I never want to be peer pressured into smoking. Like, if that's like a boundary to you, and you have a friend that's like trying to peer pressure you into doing that, then to me that's like, I'm not going to be friends with you, because my boundary is rigid on that. Does that make sense? But so rigid so that's an example of rigid boundaries, which according to the
love that.
the LA concierge psychologist, rigid boundaries are overly strict like that, because it could be something it's just super personal or super health related, like whatever it is, it's just something that you're very, very strict on. And it may isolate you, but I feel like that is the point of a boundary, is to do that. That's the purpose of a boundary. And the word isolate has such a
negative connotation.
Yes, and I
don't like that word.
I don't like that either. And I think isolate, alone, like these are all like considered like bad things, but it's not actually a bad thing. Like, it's not bad to be alone. It's not bad to isolate yourself from the world for a little bit. Like, that's normal. And then your porous boundaries or diffuse boundaries are kind of like relaxed, dynamic. They're very like depends on the situation. Like, you have a boundary, so it could be something like, I don't like to talk about my family issues with people, but that could be something that could be a porous boundary, because you could be like, well, it depends on the type of person, depends on the situation, it depends on what I'm telling that person. So that could be an example of something that's flexible, and usually your porous boundaries are just very dependent on the situation, and things that are not like, if this happens, like if A happens, then B. They're more like, you kind of decide on the spot, but the boundary is like, I don't like talking about, so I won't talk about this. Like, that could be the boundary.
And then we have healthy, flexible boundaries as well, which allow you to change when you want to be firm on something and then be flexible on other things, which I think is a great example when it comes to like the types of relationships you have with people. It's like, if you know this person for a really short time, your boundaries may be very high, whereas like when you start to get to know this person, it's like slowly comes down. It's like you get what they're trying to say, or like
yeah, I agree. I also think like healthy, flexible boundaries could be, honestly, even boundaries that you set for yourself. You know, like if you're like, because there's also like, you know, these are all external boundaries that you're setting with people, but there could be boundaries you're setting within yourself. Like, I don't want to be overworking myself. I don't want to be like, you know, whatever it is. I
want to have like a good work-life family-life balance.
Yeah, and then like whatever boundary you kind of set for that, it's kind of like, well, I did say this, but I did say like I don't want to work 8 hours a week, 8 hours.
But I really need to like.
But today I really need to. So that's like, I guess like a flexible, because you're like, okay, today I will, but today how about I just work not at all tomorrow? You know, things like that. So what are boundaries? Why do they matter? And how do they affect our mental health? So according to the Mental Health Center, boundaries protect your emotional energy. Why exactly do boundaries matter? So according to the Mental Health Center, boundaries protect your emotional energy, and they reduce like fighting and arguments in relationships, and even prevent burnout and overextension. So that could honestly be like something that's more like a more internal boundary, because I feel like, as much as I agree that external boundaries are broken a lot, I do think people, one, don't set internal boundaries, and two, they are broken a lot, because you're always like, you know how it's like you are your worst enemy? Like, that's what I sometimes feel like internal boundaries are broken a lot more, for me at least, than my external boundaries are.
And honestly, it kind of shows you like where your responsibility lies. It's like when someone is to set a boundary, you're not responsible for the way they feel and their feelings, but you are responsible for the way you reply to them. You know, like if they are very persistent on like, hey, I really don't like it when you bring this up, you need to take responsibility and really be like, I'd be, I guess, cautious about not bringing that topic up, or whatever they don't like, and
yeah. I also think that boundaries kind of like reinforce being respectful, and they kind of reduce conflict, honestly, because imagine like, if me and you were fighting, but one of my boundaries were like, let's just not speak when we are both like really, really pissed because we're gonna say things that we don't mean. So let's just not speak during that time and let's just take some time off. If that's my boundary, that's like, and if you're like, okay, and if you don't agree with that, but you respect my boundary, you're not gonna do that, and then we're just gonna avoid doing that in general. So then it's gonna avoid having such a big conflict.
But it's like if I go out of my way to break your boundary and like get pissed and like say all this shit, like it's just like
exactly.
I'm not responsible for how you feel, but I'm responsible for the way I'm acting.
Right. And I do think like again that with internal boundaries too, like it promotes kind of being respectful to yourself too. I think like a lot of mental health stuff go like hand in hand. So like boundaries like go hand in hand with like our last topic on people pleasers. Like if you don't have set boundaries, you can become a people pleaser. Yeah. Or other like if you're a people pleaser and you want to not get rid of, but like stop being a people pleaser or like
set those boundaries.
Then you set boundaries. Like a lot of these things go hand in hand, and like boundaries with like relationships of any sort. I don't mean like just romantic relationships, like any kind of relationship. They're very important, and it can even be like a self relationship. Like they're just very, very important, and even having boundaries with like spiritual boundaries, like any type of boundaries that you are having a relationship with something, if you have boundaries, it'll just make it better, easier, and more sustainable.
Which I feel like if you don't set those boundaries, again with the people pleasing thing, it's like you're starting to resent others for something they're actually not even aware that they're doing is like hurting you.
Exactly.
So it's like like boundaries are important, and it definitely goes straight hand in hand with like people pleasing.
And it's also important that you are surrounding yourself with people that respect those boundaries, even if they don't have the same boundaries.
So have you ever had an experience where it's like your boundaries weren't being respected? But is it because you told them about it, or was it like?
Yeah, actually, I have. I have had experiences with this person where I have boundaries and I communicate them very clearly.
Yeah.
And they keep getting broken, and like no respect comes out of that. Yeah. And like, are you asking like what do I do in these situations?
Yeah.
I think that with me, like obviously I've talked about this on the podcast multiple times, but over the years, I think my mental health has just grown stronger. Like it's just been better, and it's obviously like very intentional effort from my side because I had points in my life where my mental health was just so bad. So I think right now, like where I am with my mental health, if someone is not respecting my boundary, like that person, I am very quick to just be like, hey, we need to put some distance between us because you don't do this, this, and this. And I think another part with my mental health being super low at these certain times was also me not being able to tell someone that these are my boundaries and you have broken them. But I think that now with where I am and how I feel about myself and how I feel about me and my relationships, I can be like
confident to say.
I can be more confident. I can be more. I wouldn't even use the word confrontational because I don't think like it again has such a bad connotation to it. But like confrontations don't always mean like you're yelling at somebody. You know, it could literally just be like, hey, you're doing this. I don't like this.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that I have recently. I mean, there's not a lot of people that I surround myself that break my boundaries. Even my whole thing is, you don't have to understand my boundary. You just need to respect it.
Exactly.
And then if people don't, then I'm very quick to be like, well, I don't need your negativity.
I don't need that. Which I do as well, because I think before I used to be very bad on that, and I'd just be like, it's fine. Like I would just like forgive them, but it's like now I'm like, okay, if I really don't like what you're doing, I'm just gonna like do my own thing.
Right.
But I also am not the type to be like, I'm going to go distance myself. Like I would just do it internally, and I'll just like
I would just when I mean distance is like I distance myself, like I start to think about what my friendship is with them. Like obviously I'm not gonna become best friends with them. I'm not gonna like cut them off.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Which I mean by distancing. Like it's not like I'm gonna be best friends with you. I'm just gonna be like acquaintances. I'm gonna say hi. I'm gonna say bye. I'm gonna have conversations with you. But it's like very like surface level, I would say.
I also think like with boundaries, like my friends, my support system, they're very good with being like, you don't need to explain your boundaries to someone. If you understand them and you have boundaries, that's that. And they're very good with reinforcing that if you have boundaries, that's normal and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because there are too many people pleasers in the world. So sometimes it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong or you're not being normal because you have boundaries.
Oh,
and that's not true.
Real.
You know what I mean?
I like feel bad sometimes.
Sometimes I'm like, wait, nobody's doing that. Like, why?
Yeah, like,
but
why?
it's like,
Like, I do feel bad. I'm
yeah.
like, why? But I'm like, I'm just doing something for myself.
Right. And it's like, again, like I said, no one needs to understand your boundaries except you. All they need to do is respect them.
Respect them and know how to respond to them.
Right. And then if they can't respect them, then it's your job to do something about it. I'm not saying like just cut it off. Whatever you do is up to you, but if someone is not respecting your boundaries, and if you've told them multiple times, confronted them essentially about your boundaries and what they are, you don't even have to explain why they are the way they are, what they are and how you want them to respond to it, and they're not doing anything about it, you should be doing something about that, you know?
8.
So let's just go into like, I guess what.
So we made a really cute little chart, and it's like, it's like the type, like what it means, and like how it can be like violated, and examples of like your physical, emotional, intellectual, time, material, like all that topic.
Yeah.
So
I think we have 7 types of boundaries that we've made a list with. The first one is physical, and this again could go straight into like physical and sexual boundaries, and this essentially is obviously like just, I guess what it says.
Obviously.
Your body, personal space, touch, consent, anything that revolves around you physically as a body, like any type of boundary. And I think that these are, when people say boundaries, I think that this is what comes to people's minds, your physical and sexual boundaries.
Yeah.
And this could be something so small like hugging someone. Like if you do not like hugging strangers and you only hug your mom and you don't want to hug anyone else,
That's fine. You're fine.
that's normal.
Or like it could be anything like, oh, your roommate's entering your room when you're not there. That's, again, fine.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And it's like, again, what I mean is like these boundaries don't, like my boundary with people coming into my room and Shemai's boundary with people coming into your room can be different, but we are both normal. You know? Again, like I said, your boundary just has to make sense to you. Right? And again,
and you can't feel bad for that.
Right. Back to sexual boundaries, like in today's day and age, like I need to reinforce this so many times. It is okay to say no to things, okay? And I think like with social media and the like how people are normalizing sexual relationships, I want to reinforce it is normal to have sexual boundaries. And in fact, you should have sexual boundaries because I think it protects your peace.
Real.
And so that's physical and sexual. Sexual was kind of like a separate one, but I just kind of tied it into physical because it just makes sense. And then we have your emotional and mental health boundaries. And those are what I mean by your internal boundaries, because those are stuff that you're usually not telling people about because they're for yourself, right? Like, these are boundaries that you only set for your own mental health. And this protects your feelings, your emotional energy, and your thoughts. So this could be something like being forced to fix someone else's problems or absorbing other people's emotional needs, and essentially the inability for you to say, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
It's normal for you to not want to talk about something. It's normal to be like, I do not want to talk about this right now. That is normal. I think that it's so, you know what I think? I think this happens a lot in friendships, especially with social media. I feel like all of these friends that we see, it's like they base their friendships off of what they think is an ideal friendship, off of what they see on social media.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like everyone's like, I see all these videos on TikTok and it'll be like, or like social media, and it's like a bunch of videos like, oh, if your friend does this and like you should do this, and it's like, not every relationship is the same. Or even, you know what makes me so mad? Those videos where it's like, if he wanted to, he would. I'm sorry, but not every single man is like a millionaire and like just comes to your rescue, like everything.
Yeah.
Like everyone's relationship is different, and I think that social media does a pretty bad job of letting people know that.
Yeah. And then moving on to like opinions and stuff, and it's just protecting your idea, your beliefs, what you care about, obviously. And I guess a violating way is when people dismiss your opinions, which is again can be tied into people pleasing, which we talked about in the last episode. And yeah.
Yeah, that could also be something like if you disagree about something, maybe even politically, or if you disagree about something, if you disagree about something, it's kind of like you
Go about it in a respectful way.
Yes, and the people that you're talking about this should understand that that is a boundary, that you believe this or you think this, and they should kind of understand. They don't even have to understand, they just have to respect it.
Yeah.
Like if one of my boundaries were like, I believe this should happen because of this, and I have told you that that is my boundary, like I think this and I want to do this and I feel this way.
Don't go about your way of disrespecting.
Right, like your job, if you have something to disagree about, that's normal. Obviously, you have boundaries too. But your job should just be telling me what you think rather than trying to force your opinion on top of me. Because it's like, no, that's a boundary for me, you know? And then we have your time. And
we literally just filmed a reel for that, so check that out.
We have time boundaries, and this could be like, honestly, I guess it's more of a personal boundary, like how you protect your time, your availability, how much time you want to put so if you have a boundary where you're like, I want to put aside an hour every single day
to literally doing Pilates or something.
Yeah, I have a boundary where I don't meet people after like 6 p.m.
That's fine.
Then that's normal. That's literally normal. And I feel this too, like sometimes I'm someone that like sleeps early, wakes up early, and there's sometimes obviously I get really busy and I can't see people, and the only time people are hanging out are like late at night, and I can't do that. But that's like, to me, I'm like, I feel like that's kind of a boundary because that time is important for me, and if I keep giving it away to other people, then that's gonna affect my mental health eventually.
And I have FOMO, so it's like,
yeah, and that too, like that's why I feel like I need to go.
Like I have to go. Like if I miss out, like it's like, oh my god, like I'm missing out on the move, and it's like super fun, but it's like at a time, it's like, bro, if not this, there's another day you'll do something. It's fine. It's
right. And I'm gonna say
I want to be better at that. Because I feel like I'm always like, it's like if I have work to do, I will like, but if people are hanging out, I'll be like, okay, like I can hang out, and then I'll come back and do the work, but it's like I want to prioritize like other things.
Exactly.
Stuff for myself.
And I'm going to say it again, if you haven't heard it already. If your friends, if your family, if your relationships are not accommodating to your needs and adjusting to what you want, obviously, considering that you're also doing the same thing, they should not be your friends. And I'll say it again, if your friends, any type of relationship that you have with anyone, is not adjusting and kind of working around your schedule a little bit, and if they're literally like, you don't attend this, we're not being friends with you, don't attend it,
don't
and don't be friends with them.
Go find someone else.
And you should not be being friends with them because they are just violating your boundaries and not being
respectful. Oh my god, that's actually crazy. Oh my gosh.
But you'd be surprised how many people actually do that. Like how many people actually feel like if they don't go genuinely, like they are not going to be friends with them.
What?
Like think about like people like in high school when they want to be popular and stuff, and they're like, oh, I can't.
I don't go to this party. Like I'm not like.
Yeah, and I promise you, like
so stupid.
There are gonna be thousands of parties for you to attend. You're gonna be fine. And genuinely, if people are not gonna adjust to your life, to what you need, and you're someone that adjusts to someone else's life and like what they need, and if they're not also meeting you halfway or meeting you in the middle, you should not be having a relationship with them.
Which goes into the other thing with material and financial stuff. It's like lending your car, lending your maybe groceries, and like your personal things, and it's like you feel guilty whenever they ask you, that you feel inclined to like give it to them when you really don't want to give it to them. But again, that's literally your boundary.
Right.
If you don't, like obviously it's like toilet paper, if that your friend is running out of toilet paper, that's a whole different thing. Like,
yeah.
Okay, come on.
But
like,
I think this, I guess, kind of applies to more like family, because like you hear all these stories about like people asking their kids like, oh, I need this money, or like you feel like you're responsible for paying something that your don't need to be paying, and it's too expensive, or you're paying for some like medical. So pretend it's like, I don't know, like example, like if I had like a sister and she was like older than me and she was, I don't know, like we were never close, like she was like a bad person, and then she, I don't know, has some health problems and she's like saying that I need to pay because I'm her sister. That could be a boundary, like, hey, like I'm sorry but I can't pay this, or you know, like it doesn't matter what your boundary is, again, it just needs to make sense to you. And at the end of the day, your boundaries need to make you feel safe and happy, and if they're constantly being broken, then maybe you need to reevaluate the relationship and the boundary.
Which again, everyone has, like Deetya said, it's a spectrum. Like everyone's boundaries are, it could be like, maybe she won't, like for family wise, like I could have different boundaries in my family, or she could have different boundaries in her family. Like I'd be more inclined to doing certain stuff, whereas maybe like we just have different views, which is fine because it's her boundaries and my boundaries. Like, so.
Yeah. Wait, guys, I want to say I do not have a sister, and
Yeah.
that was just a scenario. But again, some boundaries, the ones like I've said, some boundaries can be porous, some boundaries can be rigid. It depends on what the boundary is and
Yeah.
what
That's what
it's doing it for. Like,
Which,
you know,
like, religious beliefs, it's, again, your opinion, your belief. It's, like, up to you whether you want to practice religion, you don't want to practice religion, whatever you believe in. It's, like, you don't have to be pressurized to, pressurized?
Yeah,
New word.
pressured.
Pressured is for rice, right? Pressured into, like, believing in something that, whatever you believe in, like, if you don't want to believe in it, you don't have to believe in it. Again, it's your boundary.
And spiritual and
Which is, like,
religious boundary is like a good boundary to explain. Like you don't need to explain to someone why you have a boundary or why you do what you do, as long as you understand it.
And if you are happy doing that, then
yeah,
exactly.
Either.
Which I know religion is a very, very
sensitive topic.
topic.
Which is why I'm reinforcing you do not have to explain your boundary to someone else.
No.
You know? And then, okay, so how exactly does boundaries affect mental health? Well, it could cause, like, if you have bad boundaries or if you don't have boundaries at all, you can essentially become someone that's like a people pleaser and does things for other people. And this could lead to burnout, emotional exhaustion, anxiety, stress, resentment, frustration, guilt.
Loss of identity.
On and on.
It's huge.
Loss of identity is a big one.
Which is like, it literally goes correctly coexist with people pleasing.
Right.
It's like, it's the same.
And obviously this could lead to like lower self-esteem or negative self-view, and this is like, this could be like if some of your external boundaries are broken, which also some boundaries can be like tied together, you know, like some external boundaries, like if your external boundaries are constantly being broken, this eventually will affect your internal boundaries, and then it's like at the very, very end, it's like all your boundaries are just like all jumbled up and you don't know how to maintain some boundaries because some of them are getting broken, and like this could lead to like at the end of the day you are just have no confidence and your self-esteem is just so low and you're having relationship difficulties, like whatever it is, like all of these like mental health, I guess, like symptoms and side effects all kind of like coexist, you know.
It's just like frustrating mentally, and it's like you're gonna feel overwhelmed and just like all over the place.
Right. So what are the good things about having healthy boundaries? Are obviously like pretty much the opposite of everything I said. Like you're gonna have reduced stress and burnout. You're gonna have greater emotional resilience, clear sense of self, and healthier relationship with mutual respect. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it's like you are who you're friends with. So if your boundaries are good, you're gonna attract people that have similar values. They don't have to have the same boundaries as you, but they are emotionally intelligent enough to understand that is your boundary and they respect that boundary.
Exactly.
And as you become healthier mentally, I promise you will attract other people that are healthier mentally.
Yeah. Exactly.
So how exactly do you even build boundaries?
So we're gonna give you a little step by step. Number one, self-reflection, self-awareness. You need to, it's honestly like, you know, it's like, okay, this is a really bad example, but you know, like addictions and stuff, like acknowledging you have something.
Right, which is
acknowledging,
any kind of mental health.
Which is like acknowledging you have, I wouldn't say problem, but acknowledging
you don't have boundaries and you need them.
Yeah, you're not acknowledge. What am I saying? Like you have to acknowledge that, and you have to reflect on it, and you have to say, what do you really want? Like ask yourself when you are presented with a situation where your boundaries are kind of getting like pushed. Do you want to do it? Are you going to be happy doing that? And then, yeah.
And this kind of goes hand in hand. It's a perfect time to journal. And if you don't know what that is, watch our episode on journaling.
Yeah.
But journaling is a perfect way to do exactly that. Reflect and understand what is going on, what needs to be fixed. And from there, you can start small and build up.
Which, obviously, I know we talked about internal and external boundaries. So maybe if you don't know where to start with those internal boundaries.
I actually think we start with external boundaries.
Really?
Because then it's like...
But don't you want to build confidence in yourself before, like...
But how do you build confidence in yourself if all your external boundaries are already broken?
But, like, internal boundaries, like, you're sticking to, like, if I need to do schoolwork versus going out with my friends, I'm doing that schoolwork and I'm sitting here. And then slowly you can be like, if your friend is very being like, if you don't hang out with me, I'm not going to talk to you. Okay, don't talk to me.
There's no right or wrong way. You can do either.
Either
but
or.
I think for me, it's more like external boundaries because once I fix my things externally and get rid of those people that are breaking my boundaries, because for me, it's like my internal mental health is affected by the people around me. So if the people around me are still like breaking boundaries, I can never prosper internally because my external boundaries are constantly being broken, which is affecting how I feel about my
I didn't think of it like
internal,
that.
you know?
I don't know why. I think I would start focusing on my internal boundaries first because I'm a little scared and I need some confidence. So it's like if I build that confidence within myself, I feel like I can start saying stuff that I really care about and like, you know.
Yeah. And then obviously communication. You need to like...
Also, we're not saying like confront anyone. We're not saying like go at it and like have a whole conversation and be like,
Yeah.
I don't like when you do this. No, we're just have a conversation.
Yeah, communicate with people. Even if like it's not an argument, but you have a boundary that you think someone should know, let them know. Like let them know, hey, this is my boundary. This is how I feel about something. Like please, if it ever comes down to it, please don't push me past this. Which is like I said at the beginning, like if you're someone that only likes to be talked to respectfully and you don't want people to be like petty or like pissed when they talk to you, let them know that. Let them know, hey, I don't like when we have arguments when both of us are really, really angry because we say things that we don't mean and our point doesn't even get across properly.
But at the same time, don't go into it as you're joking in a way. I feel like that can also be misunderstood.
Be very, very clear.
Clear and be kind of assertive. Genuinely have a conversation with that person. Don't be like, bruh, like I didn't like it when you did that. Like they're gonna look at it as a joke.
Right, and they might not take you seriously, and it's like you should just be like, hey, this is how I feel about this. I know if it ever comes down to this, I want you to know this is how I want you to go about the situation.
Exactly.
And also, sometimes your boundaries, like keep in mind in your head that sometimes your boundaries may not make sense to other people. So if I'm telling you something that I have a boundary for, and you're kind of like you don't know how to respond to that, if it ever comes down to that, it's okay to let someone know, hey, if it comes down to this, I would like for you to do this, so you don't break my boundary. That's fine.
But you're also teaching them in a way like how to respect your boundaries. Again, you're not responsible for how they feel. You're responsible for how to respond with it.
Right, and I'm gonna say this again also because social media is just all over the place, and it's not just because I tell someone how I want someone to react in a situation does not mean they don't like me. It just means that they can't read my mind. It's just simple as that. It's not like if he wanted to, he would. If your friend wanted to, they would. No, they just don't know, genuinely. Yeah. So you're just telling them.
Yeah. And also check in with yourself. Look at that boundary. If, let's say you have a strict boundary about something that's like happened and then you're slowly getting over or you don't really care that much anymore, just be flexible. You don't have to like be very like, you broke this boundary, so now we're not gonna be friends and now we're gonna distance yourself. Like go about it in again, like you said, they can't read your mind. You have to, in a way, tell them.
Right. And also understanding which ones of your boundaries are porous, which ones of your boundaries are rigid, which ones of your boundaries are you like it depends on the situation, and which ones are you like I would never do this, I'm not going to do this, and if this ever happens, I would never be friends. You have to know that, you have to understand that, and you have to accept that if someone breaks a rigid boundary, there's going to be some kind of consequence to it.
Especially if they knew about that rigid boundary.
Right. And that could also be like, internally too. Like you should, if you have a strong boundary with something, then make sure that you're checking in with yourself and making sure that you're kind of doing the boundary that you set for yourself. Because if you don't, it's gonna be a lot of guilt, shame, and fear, and you're just kind of gonna go in a circle, and it's just not gonna work for you mentally.
And then step 5, self-compassion and managing resistance. Okay, and
And this is usually the hardest step because this is when your boundaries are actually being enforced.
Yeah, and obviously, I think like for a lot of people, you're going to start to feel bad, and it's like, you shouldn't. Like this is for yourself. You're doing it for yourself. You should be, I guess, content with that. And it's like, I honestly have such a terrible habit of like feeling bad. Like I'm like, I feel so bad. And it's like, why am I feeling bad? This is something that I want. I am respecting everyone's boundary. Why is my boundary not respected?
And don't make boundaries based on other people's boundaries. Make sure that those boundaries work for you. Just because Shivani has XYZ boundaries doesn't mean, oh, that's super normal, I have to have XYZ boundaries. I may not have those boundaries, or I might have ABC boundaries. Like, it's different and it's normal. And I think that, again, with social media and chronically being online, sometimes it makes you feel like you're not normal if you don't have the same boundaries as some popular person, which is not true. Everyone is different. Everyone's life is different. Everyone's circumstances, situations, everything is different. Your boundaries do not need to make sense to anyone but you.
Exactly.
And there's no such thing as like a bad boundary or boundaries that are incorrect. Boundaries are like kind of like an opinion. You know how an opinion can never be wrong? It could be something.
It's like what you believe in.
Right.
So it's like.
And if you need to have those boundaries to work, then you need to have them to work. That's all. Period.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, do you wanna close this off?
Yeah. So at the end, make sure to just understand that boundaries are the foundation of having a relationship with yourself, having a healthy relationship with other people, and they're very, very important to maintaining a sense of self, essentially.
Boundaries are on a spectrum. I guess defined as like rigid, flexible, porous. It's up to you and what you want to classify your boundaries as.
Right. And you have to understand like some boundaries you may grow out of, some boundaries you may need to change, and those all need to be intentional effort. And these are overall going to make your mental health better, and it's going to make your social, pretty much every part of your health better. And keeping in mind, you benefit no one when you are burnt out. You don't benefit yourself, you're not benefiting the people around you. So make sure that you're taking the time and putting in the effort to avoid getting burnt out. And by doing that, you are making healthy boundaries, healthy decisions.
And you're not responsible for how
someone else feels about that.
Someone else feels about it. You're only responsible for your feelings and how you have to respond to someone that also has boundaries.
Right. And again, you're not alone. Sometimes, again, like Shivani said, you could feel guilty, you could feel FOMO if you have certain boundaries, but those are your boundaries. And I'm sure that the person next to you has some boundaries too that you don't understand, or that might make them feel kind of iffy, but those are still boundaries. Like, those are your boundaries, and you should try your best to follow them for your own mental health and your social health, emotional health, physical health, like whatever it is. Just know that you're not alone, and you don't need to feel guilty, and you don't need to feel shame that you have boundaries that other people don't have. It is normal to have boundaries.
Okay, that's great.
That's my sentence.
I saw it. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode.
WEvolve, and we will see you next week for our next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.